Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. It is day 2 of GearFest 2015. A special guest has joined us. Nathan East is here.
Where?
Hey,
how you doing, Mitch?
Good,
to
great.
see you.
Glad
Good
to
be
have you here. Thank you. We were talking earlier, it's your first time out to Sweetwater.
First time out to Sweetwater, and man, this place looks amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying so.
Yeah, really looking forward to having a walk around.
Yeah, and you're doing a seminar workshop on behalf of Yamaha with Mike Stern, right?
With Mike Stern, and it's always great to play with him. He's one of the great musicians, and so apparently, I mean, a lot of my friends are here today. Steve Ferrone, and Jeff Baxter, and
that's right.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's Old Home Week.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you've had a tremendous career.
Well, you know, I'm still loving life every day.
You are having a tremendous career, right?
I mean, yeah, well, and you can say had, because 35 years is, how, you know, a little over 35. I hate to date myself, but yeah, it's been, when I was 16, I was on tour with Barry White.
I read that. How did that happen? How did that
He was, he came to San Diego where I was playing with a band. He hired our whole band. It was for a review for Stax Records, so it was like all these artists, Rufus Thomas and Barry White, and so we were the house band.
Okay.
And he hired the band on the spot to do his tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he fell in love with the band, so next thing you know, all of us were, you know, at the Apollo Theater in Madison Square, you know, with tuxedos with the Love Unlimited Orchestra, and it was fantastic.
Wow. That had to be crazy at 16
Yeah, I
years
mean,
old.
I'm just like a puppy, you know, playing these sold-out arenas. It was fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have a degree
Yes.
in cello, right?
Well, I started on cello and then switched to contrabass, and I got my degree in music performance at UCSD.
So did you go back after you'd been on the road with Barry then? Did you go back to college and work on that then?
I did. I took a little bit of time off to do that, but then luckily I graduated high school half a year early, so then that's when I could go on the tour.
Okay.
So I didn't miss too much time, and then knocked out the degree, which was something that the parents and grandmother and everybody wanted, you know, have something to fall back on and all that.
Of course,
you know, so.
Yeah. And did that end up paying dividends for you, just that music education as you went into your studio work?
You know, I think so. It was beneficial to have knowledge in reading music and just like an overall knowledge. You never know how this stuff kind of equates to what, you know, happens in the real world. But it is good. I think before I went to LA, I said, you know, arm yourself with everything, every tool you can possibly do. So it did make me feel a lot more comfortable in orchestral situations and situations where notes were flying, you know, pretty rapidly. Right. Yeah.
So did you always intend to get into the studio side of things? You've done like 2,000 records or something like that.
You know what? I was always intrigued by the studio. The first session I did was actually for the Patty family singers. Sandy Patty was one of the kids in the group, you know. And I'll never forget, you know, going in this beautiful studio. You kind of look like this and all this great equipment, and then when you play your sound, it's just everything was reproduced so beautifully. And then they handed me a check after, and I thought, wait a second, you know, I just did something I absolutely love doing, at the highest quality of sound and everything, and then you get paid for it. Okay, I think this is kind of cool. Yeah. So I was really had my eyes on the LA studio scene when I did move up there. Yeah.
And how did you make that break? How did you get that first session and start developing your career?
Well, Barry started calling me for all of his records, which didn't help the career much because he didn't put the names of the artists on there. So, I mean, you had all these great people like Lee Ritenour, Ray Parker Jr., Larry Carlton, all these great musicians playing on these records, and he wouldn't put the names on because, you know, his thing was, I don't want anybody to steal my sound, you know.
Right.
So what we did was that was like a little network of musicians, and then a lot of word of mouth in LA, you know, when people say, oh, who should we get? You know, I was very fortunate. Again, the ability to read got me hooked up with people, arrangers like Gene Page, who was doing everything from Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Streisand, you know, and he had these really intricate arrangements and wrote everything out for bass, you know. So when he started calling me, and they said, you know, if Gene Page uses you, that's worth, you know, gold, you know. So,
that kind of stuff.
So he started calling me, and it kind of snowballed from like around 1980, where I found myself working every day in the studio.
Right.
Which is exactly what I wanted to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So since then, the range of credits that you have is extreme, to say the least. Everybody from Andrea Bocelli to Daft Punk recently.
Right.
There's a pretty broad span of stylistic things there, and jazz and blues and rock and R&B and all kinds of different things. When you started out as a bass player, were you looking at a lot of different styles, or did you say, I'm going to be this style of bass player? How did you develop that versatility?
I was in a band. When I was in high school, I was in every possible musical organization, from the pep band, marching band, to the choir, the chorus,
Right.
the jazz ensemble. So I wanted to do music. Then I was in a kind of like a club band, top 40 band. So we played, Earth, Wind and Fire and Santana and everything from A to Z, Cream and all,
Right.
So, my background was just pretty much all over the place, even when I started, and then so I used to gig in one of the jazz clubs, 3 or 4 nights a week. Then I got a gig, at the Hilton Cargo Bar for 5 nights doing top 40,
Right.
And that was all kind of, all over the place, from George Benson songs to, Gino Vanelli. And I mean, it was everything.
Right.
So I kind of, I had all these, Kenny Loggins and all these songs kind of in my head. And then I started meeting these guys, getting calls from, Kenny Loggins, Quincy Jones, George Benson.
Right.
And I could walk in and already play their set almost, So it was kind of like a snowball effect, but you had early 80s, then kind of Phil Collins called me, and then we went over and did, Phil Bailey's record, and we all collaborated on Easy Lover together. That became a good record.
Sure.
and then Eric Clapton, Phil introduced me to him. So it's kind of a business of stepping stones, and
Right.
Lionel Richie. Next thing you know, you're just like buds with these guys, and
Right.
So I do, to this day, I wake up and I kind of just pinch myself.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So working with someone like Eric Clapton, there's a huge body of work there going back to Cream.
Yeah.
The different eras of
Absolutely.
his career that he's worked with. Do you feel that going in there you have to be Jack Bruce when you're playing the Cream stuff, or does he ask you to do something different?
He's never said cop Jack Bruce's part. However, sitting in my room with Sunshine of Your Love and a blacklight poster when I was a kid, it
Right.
kind of got me into the obviously the kind of like the DNA of those kind of players.
Right.
So I feel like, then you inherit a little bit of the style, and then when you get on the gig, obviously you bring a little bit of your own flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really, like guys like Eric, he realizes that I have the background, but then, combined with other backgrounds, jazz or R&B, kind of mix it all up, and it makes for good music.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I've heard that he asks his musicians, or has on tours, to push him as he's playing. As a
Yeah.
bass player, what does that mean to you to push another musician?
Well, first of all, it's the marriage between the bass and drums is kind of pretty important. And that
Mm-hmm.
we just were at the Royal Albert Hall, did 7 shows over there. Steve Gadd was on drums,
Mm-hmm.
and so first of all, it requires complete listening and understanding that where he's trying to go, and kind of just intuitively taking him there.
Right.
And we kind of any musician that you play with, if you can hear around the corner and you can kind of get this nonverbal communication going with, I think that's the most important thing about relationships in music.
Sure.
And when you see develops, when you see rhythm sections that work together, so I've been in Eric's band with Steve Ferroni was the rhythm drummer, Phil Collins, and it's always people that have an understanding about listening and then pushing and knowing what to do with the conversation.
Sure.
And I think Eric really likes that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a long tenure with him, so clearly.
Yeah,
so.
no, we're man, north of 3 decades.
That's awesome.
It's good
That's
fun.
incredible. And speaking of long relationships, you have another one with Fourplay.
With Fourplay,
Where did that band come from?
that band was we were recording Bob James in 1990, an album called Grand Piano Canyon for Warner Brothers. He asked Lee Ritenour and Harvey Mason, who he worked with, who he should get on bass, and they both recommended me, so I owe those guys some money. 10%, no.
Right.
No, so and so that quartet was working on his record. We call it the first Foreplay. We noticed a magic, just with the sound, and and something that when we all played, and Bob was an executive at Warner's at the time, and he said, listen, we could be signed to the label and do this, and he had the name Fourplay and everything. So that was in 1990. We started. Here it is, 2015, and we're coming up on our 25th anniversary record.
Right, and the three of you have stayed constant throughout. Lee Ritenour, then Larry Carlton, and Chuck Loeb.
Right.
How has it changed as the three different guitar players have come into the group when it's so tight with the?
Well, it's a rhythm section, so everybody's voice is very important. It's almost like on a stool, if one of the legs went out from under you, it would fall, it would tip.
Right.
So, when you have a voice like Lee Ritenour, and you're thinking about so he left to start a label, and he's all over the place.
Right.
And you're going, how do you replace Lee?
Right.
And then with Larry Carlton,
Sure.
So it's not like it's a lateral move, So you're not really losing, and of course you always get the people, when's Lee coming back? When's Larry coming back? They'll say Chuck Loeb is a perfect fit for this band. Mm-hmm. He's a great artist, songwriter, player, and he just brings the complete package and completes the picture of Fourplay. But every one of those guys has been a thrill to work with, because they're all stars. And
all phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
then, of course, Bob James is, he's one of the guys that when I was growing up, I used to transcribe his piano solos and listened a lot to him. And we just finished a duo album called The New Cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's coming out on Yamaha Entertainment Group.
Oh, wonderful.
And so we're looking for that to be released in September.
Right, wonderful.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys play several times, and I've seen you play with Eric Clapton in a variety of different situations. You always look like you're having so much fun.
You know what? I'm the luckiest guy on earth, because I get to play with the best musicians, and it's the most fun. I mean, to think that that's what I get to do as my living is, I still wake up thinking about how lucky is that?
Right.
And these are some of the finest musicians on the planet, and you get off the plane having just worked with Eric and Steve Gadd and the band over there, and then I went straight in the studio to finish up the record with Bob, and we're finishing up Fourplay's record. So, it's a charmed life, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of fun, it had to be a blast doing your solo album.
That was the most fun of all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like going back to why I got in the business, and just choosing songs that I liked and enjoyed. I played Moondance as a kid in my first band,
right.
And sang that one. But then to be able to reach out and call all my friends and just say, hey, you want to go in the studio? We're making a record. Even guys that Ray Parker called me and said, I'm coming anyway.
Whether you want me or not, right?
David Page just came to the studio and he said, I'm playing, So we had 3 keyboard players in there. And it was just fun, because to finally be doing something, and now I don't have to answer the question, why don't you make a solo album? Because every interview was,
right.
Where's your album? You write, you sing, you play, you produce, and so finally, I don't have to. I could field those questions now, and we're having a great time. We're on the way to Japan,
great,
with the band. Steve Ferrone's playing drums, Michael Thompson on guitar, my brother James is playing bass, Jack Lee from Korea on guitar. Then we have Caleb James and Mimi Sumitomo from Japan. So it's like a 7-piece band, and we're going over to Singapore, Seoul, Japan, and doing some shows. So we have a great time.
Right. And your son played on it.
And my son Noah played the piano on one of the songs. He was 13 at the time, 15 now, has perfect pitch.
Nice.
And it's just surreal to play with your son.
Yeah.
And especially if he can actually get the gig, because I didn't get him the gig. My producer Chris Giro did.
Right.
But he heard him. He said, "Oh man, that's got to go on the record," and I'm thrilled, because we play at home every night before we go to bed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
incredible.
Yeah. So loving life.
Right.
Loving life.
Right. You have a documentary coming out on Hulu, or is it out already?
It's out on Hulu, and yes, it's that's another thing that Yamaha Entertainment. I've been with Yamaha for, it's like 35 years now. It's playing the basses. The first one I ever picked up, I love the sound of it, and so we've come a long way, and it's just been a fantastic marriage. And when I signed to the Yamaha Entertainment Group label, not only did we get a record, but they filmed every session. They filmed every, matter of fact, you know, as I was coming out my door, there were cameras rolling. I felt like I was making a reality TV show or something.
Right. Gotta look good.
They went through hours and hours of footage, and behind my back, they were going around to all my friends interviewing them, you know. So next thing you know, they presented me with this documentary, and it absolutely blew me away, you know, and all my friends are on there, and,
awesome.
It's unbelievable. So, and it really came out great because we got a lot of moments in there that we're in the studio playing, but then there's a lot of family moments, and so yeah, it's going really well with those guys.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. It's a great company.
Great company.
Yeah.
Great company, and we've been you know, we've been working together, especially Japan and the States for many, many years. So lots of friends over there. So
which bass are you playing?
So today I'll be playing the TRB 6-string, which I call it my world bass because I now all the fret markers have flags of places that I've been around the world.
Nice.
And I started that a few years ago. We were doing a tribute for the Japan tsunami relief. So I put a Japanese flag on there, and then I just started putting different flags on there. So I'll play that. I do have the Nathan E. signature model that I play also. I just finished playing that on tour with Eric. And they're wonderful basses.
Between the two of those, you can cover pretty much whatever you need.
Pretty much what I need to. The 6-string is good because in a lot of, especially foreplay and my solo tour, I have to get up there and do some lead melody stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Right. So is there going to be another solo record? Yeah, it's such success with this.
We're working on number 2 right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've already got a few songs in the can, and
excellent.
So getting back in the studio, get that one going too.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Nathan, thanks so much for coming in today.
It's a pleasure, Mitch. It's great to be here at Sweetwater, and the campus looks amazing. I'm looking forward to walking around and meeting up with some of my friends here.
And I'm going to check out the workshop. I'm looking forward to learning a lot.
Well, I better study now myself.
It's going to be great.
No, and Mike Stern I love. He's such a wonderful musician and person, and so we'll have a good time.
Yeah, the two of you together is going to be great.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear.